December 16, 1770, in a small house in Bonn, Germany. A child was born who would forever change the course of music history. His name was Ludwig van Beethoven. Music ran deep in his blood. His grandfather, also named Ludwig, was the Kapellmeister, the music director, the court of Cologne. A position of great honor and prestige. But Ludwig's father, Johann, had different plans. Seeing how Mozart had amazed Europe as a child prodigy, he was determined to create another one by any means necessary. Young Ludwig was pulled from bed in the middle of the night, forced to practice for hours. His father's methods were brutal beatings for every mistake, endless hours at the keyboard. Yet through this suffering, a genius was being forged. March 26, 1778, at just 7 years old, Ludwig gave his first public performance in Cologne. His father advertised him as only 6, hoping to make him seem even more remarkable, like the young Mozart. In 1782, young Ludwig found a true mentor Christian Gottlob Neef, the court organist. Unlike his father, Neef recognized and nurtured Ludwig's extraordinary talent with patience and wisdom. At just 12 years old, Beethoven published his first compositioner set of keyboard variations. The musical world was about to discover a new voice. In 1787, tragedy struck. Ludwig's mother, Maria Magdalena, passed away. She had been his greatest source of comfort. At just 16, he was now responsible for his troubled family. That same year, Ludwig traveled to Vienna and met Mozart himself. According to legend, after hearing the young man improvise, Mozart declared, "Keep your eyes on this one someday. He will give the world something to talk about." In 1790, the great Joseph Haydn passed through Bonn and saw Beethoven's compositions. Impressed beyond measure, he offered to take the young man as his student in Vienna. November 1792. At 21 years old, Ludwig van Beethoven left his hometown forever. The armies of the French Revolution were storming into the Rhineland. He would never see Bonn again. Vienna, the musical capital of the world. Here, Mozart had triumphed and Haydn still reigned. This city would become Beethoven's home for the rest of his life. Under Haydn's guidance, Beethoven refined his craft. Yet the relationship was not always easy. The rebellious young genius often clashed with the traditional old master. Beethoven's piano playing was unlike anything Vienna had ever heard, passionate, unpredictable. The aristocracy was mesmerized. He played not to please, but to overwhelm. In 1800, Beethoven faced the celebrated virtuoso Daniel Steibelt in an improvisation contest. Beethoven demolished his opponent so completely that Steibelt fled Vienna. No one ever challenged Beethoven again. April 2nd, 1800. Beethoven premiered his first symphony at the Burgtheater. Vienna's greatest composers had gathered. A new era in symphonic music had begun. Around 1796, Beethoven began to notice something terrifying. A constant ringing in his ears. High notes became difficult to hear. For a musician, there could be no worse fate. In 1801, Beethoven confessed his condition in a letter to his childhood friend. "For the last 3 years, my hearing has become progressively worse." He begged his friend to keep it secret. In 1801, Beethoven fell deeply in love with Countess Giulietta Guicciardi. He dedicated his famous Moonlight Sonata to her. But marriage between them was impossible. She was nobility, he was not. In 1802, hoping to save his hearing, Beethoven retreated to the quiet village of Heiligenstadt outside Vienna. Surrounded by nature, he faced his darkest demons. October 6, 1802. In a devastating document known as the Heiligenstadt Testament, Beethoven confessed his suicidal thoughts. He wrote to his brothers, "I would have ended my life, only art held me back. I will seize fate by the throat," he declared. It shall certainly not crush me completely. From this moment of despair, Beethoven chose to fight and create the greatest music the world had ever known. From his suffering emerged the Third Symphony, the Eroica, longer, grander, and more powerful than any symphony before it. Music would never be the same again. Beethoven had dedicated the Eroica to Napoleon, his hero of liberty. But when Napoleon crowned himself emperor, Beethoven flew into a rage and scratched out the dedication. He is nothing but a tyrant. In 1805, Beethoven completed his only opera Fidelio, a story of love, sacrifice, and freedom. A wife disguises herself as a prison guard to rescue her unjustly imprisoned husband. The Fifth Symphony's famous opening fate, knocking at the door. From darkness to triumph, this symphony became the ultimate expression of human struggle and victory. The Sixth Symphony, the Pastoral, was Beethoven's love letter to nature. Birdsong, flowing brooks, peasant dances, and a magnificent thunderstorm, more painted in sound. December 22, 1808, in a single legendary concert lasting for hours in a freezing theatre, Beethoven premiered both the Fifth and Sixth Symphonies, plus the Fourth Piano Concerto. It was one of the greatest concerts in history. 1809 brought the Fifth Piano Concerto the Emperor, grand, heroic, and triumphant. It would be his last piano concerto. His deafness was making performance impossible. In May 1809, Napoleon's armies bombarded Vienna. Beethoven hid in his brother's cellar, covering his ears, desperate to protect what little hearing remained. The explosions may have worsened his condition forever. The Archduke Trio of 1811, dedicated to his beloved student and patron, Archduke Rudolph, remains one of the greatest piano trios ever written. Beethoven's chamber music reached new heights. The Seventh Symphony of 1812 was pure rhythmic energy. Wagner called it the apotheosis of the dance. At its premiere, the second movement was so beloved that the audience demanded an immediate encore. My angel, my all, my very self. In 1812, Beethoven wrote the most passionate love letter in musical history to a mysterious woman he called his Immortal Beloved. Her identity remains debated to this day. Was she Josephine Dame, Antonia Brentano, Giulietta Guicciardi? Scholars have debated for 2 centuries. What we know is that Beethoven loved deeply, and his love was never fulfilled. In 1813, news of Napoleon's defeat at the Battle of Vittoria inspired Wellington's victory. Though not his greatest music, it was his greatest commercial success. All of Vienna celebrated. 1814, the Congress of Vienna redrew the map of Europe after Napoleon's defeat. Beethoven was at the height of his fame, composing for kings and emperors who had once been his enemies. By 1818, Beethoven was almost completely deaf. He could only communicate through conversation books. Visitors would write their words while he replied aloud. The greatest musician in the world could not hear a single note. The Hammerklavier Sonata of 1818, the longest and most difficult piano sonata ever written. Beethoven pushed the instrument to its absolute limits. It will keep pianists busy for 50 years, he predicted. After his brother's death, Beethoven fought a brutal 5-year legal battle for custody of his nephew Karl. He won, but the relationship would bring him great suffering. The Missa Solemnis, the most ambitious mass in musical history. Beethoven spent 5 years on this prayer to God. From the heart, may it go to the heart, he wrote on the score. Since his youth, Beethoven had dreamed of setting Schiller's Ode to Joy to music. Now, deaf and aging, he began his most ambitious project, the Ninth Symphony. May 7, 1824, the premiere of the Ninth Symphony. The completely deaf Beethoven stood among the musicians, desperately trying to follow the music he could not hear. When it ended, Beethoven continued conducting, not knowing the music had stopped. A soloist gently turned him around to face the audience. He saw them weeping, cheering, waving handkerchiefs. He finally understood his greatest triumph. His final masterpieces, the late string quartets. Music so advanced, so profound, that audiences of his time could barely understand them. They are not for you, Beethoven said. They are for a later age. In 1826, tragedy struck. Unable to bear his uncle's controlling love, Karl attempted suicide. He survived, but Beethoven was devastated. His health began to rapidly decline. Through the winter of 1826 to 27, Beethoven lay dying, likely from liver disease. Friends came to pay their respects. He continued discussing music until the very end. March 26, 1827. A violent thunderstorm shook Vienna. According to witnesses, at one tremendous flash of lightning, Beethoven raised his fist toward the sky and was gone. He was 56 years old. 20,000 people filled the streets of Vienna for his funeral. Among the pallbearers was Franz Schubert. The world mourned not just a man, but the voice of humanity itself. Ludwig van Beethoven Immortal, thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this journey through a life of passion and genius, please subscribe for more stories behind the music.